Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament. We're reading Luke's Gospel, chapter 8, and we're up to verse 40. And this is the combined two stories melded into one here. The story of Jairus' daughter and the woman who touched Jesus' garment. And both of these are in the other synoptic Gospels, essentially following on in Mark and in Matthew from the previous section. So at verse 40, en de to hupastrephein ton Iesun apedexato auton hooklos, es agapantes prostocrantus auton. And we get en plus articular infinitive, and Jesus is the subject. So while Jesus was returning, the crowd apedexato auton, well, it's we're receiving him, but it's more in the sense of welcoming him, and it's an aorist, so they welcomed him. For everyone was, now we get this periphrastic imperfect here, was expecting him, from prosdochio. Luke seems to like these periphrastic forms that are not, they're certainly post-classical, but they're quite common in Luke. Kai idu eilthin aner hoi onoma Jairus, kai hutos archon te synagoges huparken, kai peson paratus podus tu Jesu parakale auton es elthen es ton oikon autu. And behold, a man came for whom the name is Jairus, so whose name was Jairus, kai hutos, and the main verb here was hup eraken, from hup archo, which often used as a periphrasis just from the verb to be, but it's just slightly stronger. It's sort of, it's almost was appointed, or it's just was really, but he was the chief of the synagogue. But it's more than just an existence thing. Huparco, it's slightly stronger. He was in a position of being chief of the synagogue. Kai peson, aorist participle from picto, having fallen paratus podus to Jesu, beside the feet of Jesus, he besought him, he begged him, or he asked him to come into his house. Hoti thugate monogenes en auto hos eton dodeca kai aute apethnesken, because his only begotten daughter, so his only daughter, was for him. Now hos with a number was about 12 years old, so because there was for him only one begotten daughter, about 12 years old, and she, apethnesken, this is imperfect, she was dying. En de to hupagein auton hoi okloi sunepnigon auton. En plus the articular infinitive again. So while he was hupagein, well, hupago is to depart. So while he was going along, the crowds sun epnigon auton, they were pressing hard against him. Penigo is to strangle, in fact, but this was a weaker sense here of just pressing hard upon him. Kai gune usa en ruse haematos apo eton dodeca hatis, and then in brackets, interestingly, we have iatrois pros analosas holon ton bion. So a woman literally being in a flow of blood from 12 years. So we're getting a participle usa, so we would say having. It's literally being in the state of a flow of blood. Ruse is dative from rusus. It's a third declension feminine noun. It comes from the verb reo, to flow, and rusus is the abstract noun, a flowing. So she had some sort of hemorrhaging for 12 years. Hatis, and then we get this little bit in square brackets, which is not in the best of manuscripts. And it's interesting here that in Mark's Gospel, Mark makes a long comment here that she'd spent all her money on doctors, but they hadn't been able to do anything for her, and indeed had made her worse. Here, this may have been added in later, and perhaps originally Luke did not, being a doctor himself, didn't want to mention that she'd wasted all her money on doctors. Anyway, if we read what's here, we have to hold the haetis for a minute. And that's the other odd thing, to put this, if this was in the original, it would odd to put it in that position, because the haetis really goes with the next section. Anyway, so pros analosasa, this is from pros analisko, if you're looking this verb up. Pros analisko is to spend, and this is just a strengthened form. So she had spent holon ton bion, all her livelihood. Bios has a different range of meanings. Bios can mean life, but it can also mean one's livelihood, one's means of living. Iatrois on doctors, and it's dative after the pros, I think, here. So having spent her whole livelihood on doctors, haetis, she is the very one, or she, and it's emphatic here with haetis, she uk iskusen. We've seen this before. Luke uses uk iskusen in the sense of to be able to. It's literally she, in fact, was not strong enough, so she was not able, hup udenos thera puthenai, to be healed by no one. Greek likes double negative, so she was not able to be healed by anyone. Pros elthusa opis then hepsatot tu craspedu tu himatiu autu kai paracrema este herusus tu haematos autes. And having come opis then, from behind, is that old then, that old ablative ending from Indo-European, so it's from behind. Hepsatot, she touched the craspedon. If you're looking this one up, it's a second declension neuter, to craspedon. It means the hem, the bottom part, the hem of his garment. So coming up from behind, she touched the hem of his garment. Kai paracrema, this is an adverb here, it means immediately or forthwith, immediately. Herusus tu haematos autes, the flowing of her blood. Este is from histemi, it just means stood. So we would say ceased or stopped. So the flowing of her blood stopped immediately. Kai apen ho Jesus, tis ho hapsamenos mu, anumenon depanton apen ho petros, epistata hoi okloi sun ekusi se kai apothlibusin. And Jesus said, who is the one having touched me? This is aorist participle from haptomai. So who is the one having touched me? Now we get a genitive absolute here, everyone denying it. This is from arneamai, another deponent middle. Everyone having denied it, Peter said, epistata. Now I've seen this before. Luke uses this word here this is an imperative. It's from epistates, first declension masculine. It means master, one who stands over you. So Luke tends to use this expression quite a bit. So master, the crowds, sun ekusi set, they hem you in, kai apothlibusin, and they crowd you, they press against you, they crowd you in. These are really synonymous in some sense, meaning the same thing, that they're pushing against you and they're hemming you in. Hode Jesus apen, and Jesus said, hepsatot mutis, someone touched me. Ego gar egnon dunamin ex eleluthuian ap emu. For I, egnon, from ginosko, for I knew, or I realized perhaps, that dunamin, power, and now here we get a perfect participle, feminine, from ex urkamai. So it's elelutha, and then it's thos thuia thon, and we get the thuia here for the feminine accusative agreeing with this. So I realised that power had gone out ap emu from me. Idusa de hegune hoti uk elathen, tremusa aelthen kai prospesusa auto di hein aitian, hepsato auto epengelan enopion, pantos tu lau, kai hos iathe paracrema. And the woman, because, now this is from lanthano is the verb. Lanthano is to escape notice. It's a funny verb, it's hard to get into English, lanthano. In the middle it can mean to forget, but in the active here it's escape notice. So the woman, having seen that she had not escaped notice, tremusa, shaking, she came, kai pros pesusa, feminine aorist feminine participle from prospipto, having fallen before him. Now the main verb is up here, ep angalen, she reported on account of the reason which. So for what, we would say for what reason, but it's dia with the itian, and then we get this relative which goes in the different position than you'd put it in English. So she reported the reason why she had touched him, enopion, pantos, before all the host, before all the crowd, the laos, the people. And how paracrema, immediately, iathe, and this is the aorist passive from ia'amai, she was healed. So the verb is ia'amai, and this is the aorist passive form of this one. And he said to her, thugater. Interestingly, there is a vocative for this, but he doesn't use it here. You shorten the eta to get the vocative, but it's just in the nominative here, nominative for vocative. He said to her daughter, he pistis su, sesoken se, your faith has saved you. Poro es erenain, go in peace. Eti autu laluntes erkatai tis para tu archi synagogu, legon hoti, tethneken he thugates su. Genitive absolute here. While he was still speaking, someone comes, historic present, from the chief of the synagogue, legon saying, and then inverted commas, Hethugatesu, your daughter, tethneken, that's the perfect from thnesko is the verb. You learn it as apothnesko, which is a compound. We've had this before, I think, and when you put it into the perfect, it just goes back to the basic verb, thnesko. Thnesko is generally in classical Greek a poetic word. You normally don't get it by itself, except in earlier Greek in Homer. But when you go into the perfect, you just get tethneka instead of apothethneka. So your daughter has died. Make eti no longer skule ton didaskalon. We had this verb before too. We get our word squill from this. It means an irritant. Or skullo is the verb. It can mean to sort of beat you lightly with something. So it has the sense of annoy, irritate. So do not annoy the teacher. Do not bother the teacher. It's often translated. Hodi Jesus, but Jesus akusas, having heard, apekrithe auto, answered to him, me phobu, monon pistuson, kai sothesatai. Do not fear, only believe, and she will be saved. Future passive from sozo. Elthon de eis tenoikian ukefeken es elthen tina sonauto eme petron kai Ioannen kai Jacobon kai ton pater tes paidos kai ten matera. Having come into the house, he did not allow. This is from aphiemi, another meaning of aphiemi. It's got a range of meanings, and this means to allow. do not allow tina anyone to enter, so he did not allow anyone to enter with him, ame, except Petron, Peter, John and James, Jacob. These three are often mentioned together in the Gospels as being the central disciples. Kaiton Patra, and the father of the child and the mother. Ekleion depantes kai ekopton ta auten. Hode epen me klaiete uga apethenon ala kathiude. And everyone, all of them, were weeping, imperfect, and they were they were lamenting her. Kopto is to cut, can also mean to knock on a door is kopto. In the middle it means to beat yourself, and hence comes to mean to beat their breasts, and hence comes to mean lament. So it's, I think here the meaning is just they were lamenting, perhaps beating their breasts over her, but that's, I think lament's probably the right translation here. But he said, "Me Cleite, do not weep, for she is not dead, but kathiude, but she is sleeping," from kathiudo. Kai kat egelon autu, dot is hoti apethenon. Now this is from gelao, it's an alpha contract verb, is to laugh. The kata means to laugh against somebody, and hence to mock. And from the kata we get takes a genitive case. So, and it's imperfect. So it's gelao, it's on contracts to own. So they were mocking him, knowing that apethenon, she had died. So aorist from apothenesko. Autos de kratesas tes chorus autes ephonus in legon, he pais egere. And he, having taken her hand, he made a noise, he called out, saying, he pais. Now this again is nominative for vocative, O child, but it just says the girl, literally, but you'll often get nominatives for vocatives in the New Testament. So, O child, egere, rise up. Kai epistrepsin, to return, to pneuma autes, kai anes de paracrema kai dietex en aute dothenai phagain. And her spirit, this is epistrepho, it returned, and she stood up immediately, paracrema, forthwith. And diataxen, that's from diatasso, he gave orders. We have to understand a couple of things here. He gave orders, understand, to them. He gave orders, perhaps in respect of her, to be given, understand, something, phagain, to eat. This is a passive, aorist passive from didomi. So he gave orders perhaps for something to be given to her, phagain, to eat. It's probably better, I think. So he gave orders that something, you've got to understand ti here, to be given, aute, to her, phagain is an epexegetic infinitive here, to eat. Kai ex estesan hoi gones autes, and her parents were amazed. Hode parangelin autois medini apen to gegonos. And he, perhaps gave orders to them, literally sent a message to them, apain, to speak, to tell to no one, to gegonos, this is a neuter participle from ginomai, used with the article, that which had taken place. We saw that before in Luke as well. So he gave orders to them to speak to no one in respect of what had happened, to gegonos. And that's the end of chapter 8.